The morning sun filters through the towering oaks, casting long shadows across my driveway. A warm breeze carries the scent of freshly turned soil from my backyard garden, mixing with the faint aroma of coffee in my hands. This is my favorite time of day, quiet, still, peaceful. That I take a slow sip, letting the warmth spread through me as I glance around my neighborhood. The houses here all look the same, sprawling beige monstrosities with white trim, each one desperately trying to outdo the other with manicured lawns and pretentious water features. My home, in contrast, is a bold, mid-century modern design with sharp angles, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a charcoal grey exterior. A personal statement and intentional defiance. I knew, even before I moved in, that this place wasn't built for people like me. Oakridge Estates isn't openly hostile, no, that would be too obvious. Instead, it's a carefully curated community where certain homeowners receive warm welcome baskets, while others, like me, get reminders about HOA regulations within the first week. At first, I ignored them, the letters, the sideways glances, the accidental mix-ups with my mail. I've dealt with this kind of passive-aggressive nonsense before, but lately, something feels different. I sense it before I see it, that familiar prickling sensation at the back of my neck. I turn my head just in time to catch a glimpse of movement across the street. There she is, Karen Whitmore, HOA president, gatekeeper of neighborhood standards. She stands in her pristine driveway, dressed in an expensive-looking athleisure set, clutching her ever-present clipboard like a scepter. Her face is pulled into that signature tight-lipped smile, the kind that doesn't reach her eyes. She's been watching me for weeks now. At first, it was subtle. A lingering glance here, a whispered conversation with another neighbor there. But lately, the scrutiny has become more brazen. Last week, she actually had the nerve to walk up my driveway and run her fingers along the siding of my house, as if inspecting it. I stood right there on my porch, watching, waiting for her to acknowledge me. She never did. Instead, she left a notice of violation tucked into my mailbox. Your home's exterior color does not align with the HOA's approved palette. A warning. A message translation? You don't belong here. I exhale slowly, setting my coffee down on the porch railing. Across the street, Karen taps something into her phone before turning on her heel and striding back into her house. And my gut tells me this isn't over. And I've learned to trust my gut. Something is coming, and Karen has no idea who she's messing with. This establishes the setting, foreshadows the conflict, and introduces the racial dynamics without being overt just yet. It also gives the protagonist a strong, quiet confidence, setting up the eventual confrontation. The first sign that something is wrong comes in the form of silence. A strange, deliberate silence in a neighborhood where morning routines are practically synchronized, dog walkers pacing the sidewalks, joggers nodding as they pass, sprinklers hissing in unison. There's an absence that prickles against my skin. People aren't looking at me today. No polite nods. No forced smiles. Instead, they avoid eye contact entirely, suddenly too busy checking their mail or adjusting their porch decor to acknowledge me. I set down my coffee, my fingers tightening around the railing. Something happened. Then I see it. A bright orange notice of violation taped to my front door. I rip it off, scanning the text. Violation. Unsightly property or residence does not meet the aesthetic standards of Oakridge Estates. I let out a slow, disbelieving exhale. Unsightly? I murmur, looking up at my home. There's nothing unsightly about it. Every inch of my house was designed with purpose, from the smooth stone accents to the minimalist landscaping. This isn't some rundown shack, it's an architectural statement. I glance across the street. Karen Whitmore stands on her pristine porch, phone in hand, watching. I lift the notice slightly, tilting it toward her. Her smile doesn't falter. Instead, she types something on her phone. A second later, my email pings. I pull out my phone. Another message from the HOA, another complaint. This one claims my landscaping is inconsistent with the community's vision. Community's vision? I look at the identical lawns lining the street, each one boasting the same neatly trimmed hedges and overpriced flower beds. I'd intentionally chosen native plants for my garden, sustainable, low maintenance, and resistant to the state's brutal summers. But that's not the real issue, is it? No, this isn't about aesthetics. This is about control. I turn my gaze back to Karen. She's still watching, waiting for me to fold, to apologize, to conform. I don't. Instead, I step off my porch, cross the street, and stop right in front of her perfectly curated flower beds. She stiffens, but her smile stays in place. "Good morning," she says, her tone dripping with forced politeness. I hold up the notice. "This yours?" She tilts her head, feigning confusion. "Oh, dear. Another violation? You know, the HOA has strict guidelines. We only want to maintain the integrity of the neighborhood." Her eyes flick to my house. The unspoken words hang heavy between us. "People like you don't belong here." I take a slow breath, schooling my expression. I don't rise to the bait. "Not yet." Instead, I give her a small, knowing smile. "Well," I say, folding the notice neatly in half, "I'd hate to disrupt the integrity of the neighborhood." Karen's smile flickers. Just for a second. She doesn't realize it yet, but the game just changed.
The weight of Sarah's words lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. "I know." Mark's face barely shifted, but Sarah caught it, the flicker of panic, the split-second hesitation before his mask slid back into place. He was calculating, searching for an escape, a way to talk himself out of the inevitable. "Sarah, I don't know what you think you know, but stop." The single word cut through the silence like a blade. Sarah's voice was steady, but inside, she was unraveling. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides, nails pressing into her palms. She wouldn't let him twist this. Not this time. She stepped closer, watching as Mark stiffened. "I saw the messages," she said, her voice quieter now but no less lethal. "Rebecca. The hotel. The pictures." Mark exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what it looks like." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Really?" "Because it looks exactly like what I feared." For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then, instead of denying it, instead of groveling, he sighed. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Her stomach twisted. Not a denial. Not an apology. Just an excuse. She swallowed past the lump in her throat. "Do you love her?" Mark hesitated, too long, before finally shaking his head. "It wasn't about that." Sarah let the words settle, their emptiness filling the space between them. "That makes it worse." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a fleeting second, she saw something almost like regret. But regret wasn't enough. Regret wouldn't erase the nights she had stayed awake, waiting. It wouldn't silence the doubt that had crept in like a slow poison, eating away at the foundation of their marriage. "You could have just left," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you were unhappy, you could have told me. But instead, you lied. You betrayed me." Mark sighed, rubbing his temples. "Sarah, please. Let's talk about this. We have the boys. We have a life." She shook her head. "No, I have a life. You just burned yours down." His jaw tightened. "You really think throwing everything away over one mistake is the answer?" Sarah's eyes burned, but she refused to let the tears fall. She had spent too long making excuses for him, holding on to something that had slipped through her fingers long ago. "The only mistake was thinking you were the man I married." She turned away then, her decision crystallizing with every step she took. Mark didn't chase after her. He didn't beg, and that silence told her everything she needed to know. Sarah sat in the dim glow of the kitchen, the silence pressing in around her. The boys were asleep upstairs, unaware that their world was shifting beneath them. The clock ticked forward, each second stretching into eternity. Mark was still in the house. She could hear him moving in the other room, pacing, sighing, probably rehearsing some final attempt to change her mind. But there was nothing left to salvage. The betrayal wasn't just in the affair. It was in the lies, the stolen moments, the quiet erosion of their marriage while he pretended everything was fine. Sarah had spent years believing in a love that had stopped existing long before she realized it. She wouldn't waste another second. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone. The weight of what she was about to do settled over her, but it didn't break her. Instead, it strengthened her resolve. She scrolled through her contacts until she found the lawyer's number. A single call, and she could reclaim herself. Just as she was about to press dial, footsteps crept closer. Mark stood in the doorway, his face shadowed in the dim light. "You're really going through with this?" His voice was hoarse, tired. Sarah looked up at him, meeting his gaze with unwavering certainty. "Yes." He exhaled slowly, rubbing his jaw. "And the boys? You're just going to rip our family apart?" Her grip on the phone tightened. "You did that, Mark. The moment you chose her over us." For the first time, she saw it, genuine regret. Not just for getting caught, but for everything. "But it was too late. I never meant to hurt you." His voice cracked slightly. Sarah let out a slow breath, standing to face him. "But you did. And the worst part? You never even thought about what it would do to me." He looked away, shame flickering across his face. "Can we fix this?" She studied him, searching for something, anything, that could make her believe in him again. But there was nothing. "No," she said, final and firm. "Some things aren't meant to be fixed." Mark swallowed, nodding slightly, as if he already knew this was the only outcome. A long silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of endings. Then, without another word, Sarah pressed the call button. Mark watched, his shoulders sagging. He didn't argue. He didn't fight, because he knew, just as she did, this was the end, and for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt something close to peace.